Last July, me and a friend cycled for 2400 kilometers across Europe. And in this video, I will show you what gear we brought with us.
You have closed your eyes, you say you listen, but you're missing what it's all about. Rise up now, if you never fall.
I rode my Specialized Diverse Elite 2017. I bought it secondhand. It's a gravel bike and I really enjoyed it a lot. I also had 0 flat tires with these, so I'm happy with it. I didn't bring my bike up here, so I'll show some footage. On this bike, I used the Bikepacking bag system. I carried 4 bags, one underneath the steering wheel, one in the frame, one on the saddle and one on top of the frame. First bag on the steering wheel is this Restrap 10 liters bag. I used this for all my electronic devices. It had a roll top cover and a 10 liter capacity. I really enjoyed it and I only figured out how to really strap it along the way, so I damaged the front a little bit, but the bag was very nice, waterproof, and I could carry all my electronics in here. Could easily take it off and easily take all my electronics with me. On the inside of the frame I used another Restrap bag. Also fully waterproof and really accessible while cycling. It had zippers which could go all the way. I carried smaller things here, like a charger, spare tires which I didn't have to use, and other electronic things. In this I would also keep my tent poles and my stakes, and my first aid kit. On the top of my frame, next to my steering wheel, I used this smaller bag. It has 2 1 liter bags and a place for my phone on top. I would keep my food here, and on the other side my phone for navigation and messaging. So while cycling I could access this and eat on the road. And the last and maybe most important bag of all was my Ortlieb waterproof saddle bag. I chose for the 16 liters roll top bag. I stored my clothing, my tent and my whole sleeping setup here. In order to properly fix it, you have this double strap here and also this goes underneath your saddle. To avoid having a bigger swing, I even bought another strap which you could strap to my saddle as well. I was really happy with this bag. It was big and it stored my mattress, my sleeping bag and a lot of my clothing. I would put my tent on top of this while cycling. So when my tent was still wet from condensation in the morning, the water wouldn't get inside of the bag. Next to the bags, maybe the most important things were the cycling clothing. Most of the time of this trip I spent in my cycling clothing. So that's why the next part was quite important for me. For this trip I collaborated with Rogelli Sportswear. They're all about enjoying the distance, and if you've seen the documentary I made, you know our trip was about this as well. I used their camo shirts, one in sand color and one in the color white, which was really nice because it stood out so people would notice this earlier. The shirt was skin tight and a really good fabric and had no problem wearing it whatsoever. I was also very happy with these matching gloves. Even though we spent more than 100 hours on the bike, I had no problem with my hands. Because we were gonna cycle for such a long distance in a small period of time, I went for the Ultra Racing bib short. It had a really nice padding on the bottom, and even though I expected to have major saddle pains, I didn't really encounter that much of a problem. Of course sometimes, and especially in the first days, it hurt, but after that I had no problem sitting whatsoever. So I was really happy with the shorts. I used the Ferox 2 helmet. Unfortunately, I didn't have to use it. It's a very lightweight black helmet which really fitted well. While cycling you don't really notice wearing it. Then to another important part are the shoes. I used the R400X mountain bike shoes. I chose for mountain bike shoes because we had to walk sometimes as well. Going into the supermarket is better on mountain bike shoes than on real cycling shoes. Next up is the sleeping system. We camped I think 2/3 of the nights and we were carrying very lightweight equipment. This was my tent. As I said before, I strapped it on top of my saddlebag. This is the Lanshan 2 Pro, which folds really small and is fitted in a nice dry bag on the outside. It weighs less than a kilogram, so that's really nice for lightweight bikepacking. Normally you set this tent up with your trekking poles because it's a trekking tent, but of course since we're not trekking, I use these telescopic poles. They were really lightweight as well. One for the front and one for the back. I slept in this Aegis Max small sleeping bag, which, to be honest, was a bit too cold. In the first few nights it got colder at night and we were cycling in the summer and had to wear all my warm clothing. So I think it was they said it was made for -5, but I would say it's only made for 15 degrees plus. I would definitely go with a bit of a better sleeping bag next time. But it's really small, so that was convenient. I slept on this 4-class 700 ultra compact air structure, lightweight 500 grams sleeping pad. It was nice, inflatable with air by just blowing in it, and only 1.7 liters big while folded. I've used it before and I slept really well on this one this time as well. So good choice. Decathlon as well. Of course I use stakes as well. They came with the Lenshin 2 Pro tent and they were very small and lightweight but strong. I only had problems 1 or 2 nights with setting up the tent. Of course I also carried quite a lot of gear, filming gear, because I wanted to make this video. Filming right now is the Sony a6400, the camera which I brought with me. I also brought the smaller camera, the GoPro 10. This camera allowed me to film more on this fast descents. So this is the camera, the bigger camera for the other things, and this is the smaller camera I use as well. Of course its action cam is really strong and I could use it in every occasion, also while raining. Next to the 2 cameras I took a third one and that was the drone, the Mavic Mini 2, with the remote and 2 extra batteries. To power all of this I used this power bank, 20,000 strong. And I filmed most of my shots with the camera with this small tripod, which is bendable and can fit almost everywhere. The lens I filmed on was the f4 18-105 E-mount from Sony. It gave us a wide possibility to shoot, and especially with the photos I liked it a lot. It compresses the background a bit more so you can really see how big the mountains were. Of course we didn't always wear our cycling clothes, so I took some extra clothing with me. I took 1 pair of shorts for swimming and for just when I didn't want to wear my bib short. I took Tivas for when I didn't want to wear my mountain bike shoes, so after cycling it's really nice to just let your feet free in these Tivas, these sandals. I took 1 thermo shirt for when it was cold at night and I was really happy with it, and also thermal pants, because I didn't take any long pants on the whole trip, so this was mainly for the night. Next to that I took 2 shirts for when we were in town or on camping just waiting and chilling. Of course I also took a rain jacket which folds up really small. It's from Decathlon as well. Luckily we didn't really have to use it for rain, but it was nice for the colder descents. We chose not to bring any stove, so we would just eat from the supermarket or a small restaurant or bakery along the way. This allowed us to bike light and pack small. For hydration I took 2 bottles, one 800 milliliters big and one 500 milliliters big. Most of the time this was enough, but some parts, especially on Sundays in Germany when the supermarkets were closed, it was a bit on the low side. But this was all I could store in this setup for now. Accessory wise and for repairments I took this small kit to fix flat tires, which I didn't have to use. I took 1 new inner tire, which is still new and there. And I took new brakes, but I didn't replace them so far. We also carried a small first aid box and a blanket. And I think this concludes everything I brought with us. I used a gravel bike with 4 main bags, 1 for the electronics, 1 for the food for along the way and my mobile phone, 1 for the sleep setup and my clothing, and 1 for the accessories and the poles. I was really happy with this setup because it was light and fast. But if I would go again, I would also consider using a luggage carrier, because then along the road it's easier accessible. You could just open it, put something in or out and drive off. When I needed to open my saddlebag, it was quite a bit of a struggle having it all neatly and folded in again. But then again, this allowed me, a really amateur cyclist, to cycle sometimes up to 160 kilometers a day. I hope this gear video helps you organize your bikepacking trip as well. Have fun and try to take as little as possible.